I'm at the World Satellite Business Week, an annual event that attracts some of the prominent satellite industry leaders and policymakers. One of the speakers at this year's edition was Dr. Zolana Joao, who heads the Angolan Space Agency. Thank you very much, Dr. Joao, for talking to us. First of all, can you give us a brief history of the Angolan Space Agency?
Yes, the Angola Space Agency is basically 10 years old. We just went from being on spacefaring nations on the last 10 years to be today an emerging space nations in Africa. We today stands out of the 12 African countries with an actual space program. We have been growing. There are now more 70 plus specialists on the agency. We're more focused on comms and Earth observation applications, which is our priorities at the moment.
Which satellites has your space agency launched so far, and what are the plans for the future?
Yeah, so far we have launched 2 satellites. One in 2017, we had an orbital failure. But we recently launched just last year in October a geocommunication satellite, a full HTS satellite to give broadband connectivity in Angola and Africa continents. It's been working great. We are doing very well with the commercialization. Operational satellites is our focus. So overall, we have 1 satellite, but we also have done a lot of work on building Earth observation labs that are now supporting the Angolan government and giving key information on key sectors of the economy in the country.
How is the country benefiting or can benefit from space technologies?
Yeah, many ways. For instance, if you see today the United Nations 17 goals, we known as the SDGs, all the way from trying to have zero poverty, zero hunger, improve quality in education. So space technology can actually map all these SDG goals. For instance, we have been using satellites, for instance, to track oil spills and to track contamination on the sea, which can solve SDGs related to life below the sea, right? So we'll be using like the satellites actually to connect people in the most difficult remote areas where they never have access to any type of infrastructures for communications and giving them opportunity to connect to the digital world. So these are just some of the few examples on how you can use space technology to support the country.
There was also a discussion at this conference about the possibility of a pan-African cooperation. This year, in fact, the African Space Agency was inaugurated. Can you please tell us more about it?
Yes, Africa is doing steps, baby steps, but it's doing great steps. As you said, we just established the Africa Space Agency in Egypt, which is a great news. We have an Africa space policy, which is good and give guidelines to countries on how to do space. Now, I think, as I said on my talk, there is a map. We need to work on the ecosystem, the appropriate ecosystem to allow private investors, private company, government, the society as a whole to come together and utilize all these initiatives in terms of the space agency and the space policy that is in place.
And my final question is, what are the challenges for a space agency in Africa?
Oh my God, this question will talk like for all week. There are many, right? I think some European countries have gone through this process that we are going through now. It comes all the way from lack of funding, and basic needs in terms of we're still struggling to have proper infrastructure to connect the continent, so which makes it very hard. In the perspective, we're not only looking to space, we're solving also other sectors problem before establishing a space program. So, but you have to be innovate. Actually, when there is problems as well, it's a good opportunity to be innovative and create opportunities. This is what we've been trying to do.